All right, welcome back. We are now back in session. Just looking at this, I believe we're going to go, if it's all right with council and staff, through community services and economic development and planning tonight. And then we'll leave off at that by the end of the night, okay? And before we go to community services, is there any more questions or any more comments on operations? As I said, when we wrap up, if there's questions or comments overall on the budget, we can come back and make, comments or questions on it. But seeing none on operations, let's go on to community services.
Correct. So moving on to community services, the floor is open to council for any questions that you may have.
Mayor Rob, may I ask a
Yes,
question?
go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was trying to look. for my
Okay,
notes.
Brandon, I'm going to start right off the top on page 1, your salaries and wages. You're going from 133, 176 to 234. Help me understand that jump.
Okay, so as the same as in the operations department, the salaries and wages were taken. I took an average of the last 5 years and reallocated according to the trend for all the different departments within community services. That's a reallocation. There is also one increase for one individual where during the job evaluation that was performed in 2021, there was a substantial increase. The half of the increase was done in 2021 and the other half is done in 2022. So overall, yes, in this specific line, there is a major increase, but you will notice in the other departments, there are decreases.
Well, I'll see when I get there.
Okay.
All right, Councillor Moyer.
Again, page 1, 7101, 3042 license. Licenses up to $6,000.
So that is the fee for our new booking software, Perfect Mind, which we are currently booking with. However, it has not made it onto our website yet, just because there's a little bit of back-end GL work that we need to work out, and then it will be up, I hope, by the next week.
So is that the cost just to finish that up?
That is the software cost, the annual cost.
Okay. That's the annual cost?
Correct.
Okay. A question on that software. I was hearing somewhere that they were talking about not having the initial fee for new software. Some of them, they were just going to have it as a yearly, it says a yearly fee instead of an upfront cost.
So that's correct. And a lot of the software that I look at anymore, they've kind of gotten, I guess, for lack of a better term, wise on the producer side, where they're like, why would we charge a one-time fee when we can just
Keep paying.
annually bill you, much like Microsoft Office has went that
Okay,
route.
so that looks to be some of the future in our software, doesn't it? That we're going to pay yearly instead of upfront cost.
Correct. That's what I would assume.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Just to follow up on that same, the software, the licenses there, does that not qualify under modernization funding?
So through the mayor to Deputy Mayor Cornelison, I know the first year, like last year's, for instance, the implementation fee as well as that was used through modernization. Estelle maybe can speak further to modernization in this year.
Okay.
Through your worship, I do remember reading a report done by the previous treasurer allocating the original funds for modernization. And yes, for the implementation, it was part of the modernization grant.
Okay, thank you.
On that, can I ask, have we pretty much with this budget used our modernization money?
Yes, we have, your worship.
And there's another round of modernization money supposedly coming through. And I don't need an answer for this tonight. I'm just wondering if we have projects to apply for that or not. And we don't need an answer right that. I'm just
currently through your worship. So there's two different modernization streams. There's grant funding and then there's the allocation that was downloaded. Downloading we needed to use in order to demonstrate that we could get to the grant awards. What you're referring to is the fourth stream of modernization, I believe, coming up. We are looking at what we can do that way, but we are in a position that it frankly, what they call it in the industry is grant fatigue, where we have to be cognizant of what we can do locally before we start taking on more buckets of money coming
All
in.
right.
But we'll be looking for any senior staff or staff member to come up or council to suggest that this project would be good in that stream. But we've had a lot of success with the county.
But we have what we've received, we've used now. Okay. All right. Questions again for services?
Just a
Councilor
question.
McClinchy.
In the equipment maintenance, I see fuel. Do we have, is there a set budget or do we tender out for fuel? Like if we did, I don't have, how does that work?
So we did tender out for fuel, John, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 years ago.
Through your worship, it was somewhere around 3 or 4 years ago. It should be coming up for renewal shortly. If memory serves me correct on the term of the tender and the contract award.
Yeah, because we got it for the fuel. Is it a set rate or I'm not sure how that works.
Yes, we get fuel stored in tanks, correct me if I'm wrong. And then we keep track of how much fuel is being utilized for the different pieces of equipment.
Okay,
And that's how that gets allocated for. the
okay,
different
well, I
pieces.
wondered that and I just thought that, yeah, that should be coming up, shouldn't it? Because we tendered, I think. quite a while.
Through your worship, I'd have to look into that. But I do believe it's up, or it may possibly be up now. But I do believe.
And we
Yeah.
certainly know fuel costs are
Whoa,
going to be the highest ever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
this year.
yeah, that's right.
other questions? Councilor Moyer.
The budget, I just question for Brandon, the new splash pad in Park Hill, everything went smooth, no issues as we did in Elsie Craig. Everything worked out well.
Correct. So far, fingers crossed. This is the first winter, which is always a little bit of an adventure, but it should be all good.
It became the new birthday parties spot, didn't it, in Park Hill? It really, I saw that. There was a lot of. Deputy Mayor Canelson.
Thank you, Mayor Ralph. Brandon, I'm looking at on page 4, 73010695, advertising fees for revenue. I thought we had talked some time ago that we we're going to increase the fees for advertising. Does that include it in this proposed budget? Under revenues on the top of page 4, well, not top.
Yeah, so correct. I put in a placeholder of $5,000 with the new package to go out. I'm not sure how much interest it'll generate. I'm hoping that this is a shortfall. I based it off basically where we were at in 2019. Assuming that everyone comes back and we gain a little bit more, we should be well over that mark.
Okay, and I have one more question. That is, I saw a report, I can't remember where I saw it, somewhere here in the budget, that the solar panel revenue was under the Park Hill Arena, but I'm not seeing it here. Where's that accounted for in our budget? Is it elsewhere? And I'm assuming that's all our solar panels, because it's not with Elsie Craig, it wasn't anywhere else. Yes, I do recall that.
It is.
I think it's later on in the presentation somewhere. I think, I'm not sure.
Don't look for a real big number,
Just 35,000 is what it was.
something like that. Yeah. Don't look for a big number.
Yeah.
Through your worship, I believe the contract that we have with QPA Solar delineated that it was to go to facilities, so I believe it is in the communicate or in that GL as it would be, and it was around $34,000 to $40,000 that we.
Right. Okay.
They're just getting it there.
So I believe that is the rate that is advertised in our lease.
Okay, thank you.
And that is for all of our solar, correct? That is for all of our solar, not just Arena. That's for
Correct.
Elsa Craig. and
That
our
is the
two-
Elsie Craig Rec Center. I believe Lurie the old Lurie dump has some
Yeah.
there that we collect from.
At
as
the
well.
Elsa Craig wastewater treatment plant and
Salem.
also on Salem Road.
Correct, I believe so.
That's correct.
Yeah, there's not a thing we can do about it, but
Middlesex Center was able to negotiate a far better compensation package.
yeah. I think, and I'm not sure when that's over, but maybe that is something when we start looking forward that we can talk about that stuff.
Through your worship, it is I have to look into it, but it is a 20-year lease arrangement with them. I'm not too sure if it's site specific or if it's as per the last installation. Once the lease is up, we have negotiated that we will take over the asset and any appurtenance or production of Hydro at that time, but we'd have to arrange a negotiated price with Hydro One most likely, and then we'd also have to consider that the asset has depreciation of 20 years on it and might not have the same life expectancy as it once did.
And that's probably 12 or 14 years away yet. So, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Counselor Nickel.
Could you just refresh me on insurance? You said it went up 6.5%, was it?
Through your worship, no, it was group benefits that went up 6.9%. The insurance costs went up 12%.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
And that's actually low from what I'm seeing in other places. I mean, it isn't low, it's 12%. But in other places, I'm seeing that I've worked with, I've seen it's quite a bit higher. Yeah. Counselor McClinchy.
On page 5, Brandon, plant repairs and maintenance, you're proposing 35,000. What does that say?
So through the mayor to Councillor McClinchy, that is, sorry, this year is the 8-year mark for our chiller, the ice chiller, and all of its gaskets need to be repaired or replaced is what the manufacturer's recommendation is. So they have to pull apart that, replace the gaskets. The gaskets alone are $15,000 plus all the work to clean out everything else inside of it. So their quote is approximately $20,000 for that.
Thank you. Counselor Hemming.
Brandon, on that same note, so those, how old is it and what's the life expectancy of that?
So a chiller, typically you can get 35 to 40 years as life expectancy, and then every 8 years is when they recommend changing the gaskets in it, just as part of its regular maintenance. They say that you can stretch it, but the further you stretch a gasket, more likelihood of some ammonia seeping out of that chiller and getting into your glycol system, which therefore it's not good to have it in your glycol in case you lose a glycol line and then the ammonia is out in the atmosphere.
So how old is that chiller now?
That chiller was put in 2014, I believe.
So it's just doing its first service now.
This is its first gasket change.
Thank you.
Just while we're waiting for more questions, it should be said that Brandon is really enjoying tonight, especially because it is his birthday. And so he didn't bring any donuts, but it is his birthday. And want to thank you for being here tonight, Brandon, even on your birthday. So to all staff, actually. So I was going to ask Ashley to sing happy birthday to you, being, new staff, right? But we won't do that. All right. More questions. Yeah, Deputy Mayor Canals.
Thank you. I guess I may be a little farther ahead, I'm not sure, but I'm on page 9, 7306, 3016. Building repairs and maintenance for the Elsie Community Center, the $10,000. Is that the countertops that you're proposing?
That is not the countertops. This is just basically the 3-year trending, plus we have to replace our AEDs in our facilities this year, which are around $2,000 a piece.
Okay.
Yep, Councilor McClinchy. Does that include a new clock?
A new
That's okay.
clock on the wall. Everybody.
We could
was
probably squeeze that in.
Just,
Councilor McClinchy and I were thinking that maybe we should start a reserve fund to buy clocks for North Middlesex. Other questions?
You probably take donations for that. You probably take donations.
There, yeah. Brandon, Jeff, who's coming in here and painting in here, he's doing a really good job. I mean, he's pretty quick at it actually, but he's doing a good job. Like if anybody looks out in the office and stuff, that's all been repainted. Then that's done by one of Brandon's staff, by Jeff.
Yeah, he has done a great job. He's
Really good
very
job.
met-
And
very
you can see in here,
meticulous.
he's doing some touch-up work and painting.
No, budgeted for.
I have
Councilor
another
Nickel.
question. I have a
Councilor Nickel,
question.
you have,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, 7306, 2005, page 9. Contracted services.
Would that be the pest control?
That is pest control
on all facilities.
for all facilities?
This is specific to Elsa Craig.
Whoa.
What a bunch of rats. Wow.
Seems like quite a jump compared.
Well, there's got to be
other-
more to it than just that.
Correct.
It
There
isn't
must
just
be.
rodent control.
But that's 4,500. And this has 75.
We'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
I believe that could be a typo, and I believe the other line item was $4,500 to reflect actuals.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, because when I look back at Park Hill, for contracted monthly and compared to Elsa Craig, it's quite a jump.
I will make that modification.
Thank you.
Other questions for Brandon? Deputy Mayor Nelson?
Brandon, just out of curiosity, more than anything, I'm concerned, the Lurie Sports Field, is it being utilized at all? Like, I mean, in the old days, it was used every day.
Historically speaking, from 2019 to 2017, it was used 4 nights a week. Obviously, since COVID has started, they haven't used that field since. Hopefully, they get a better feel for true numbers this year if we're out of COVID and they can get a true assessment of how much field time they need. I have been promoting to our minor baseball association to try and keep the usage to Park Hill and also Craig, our main hubs, just to see if the need is there for that 4th diamond rather than have open diamond times on multiple diamonds, try and condense it and then get a true assessment of need.
Okay, that leads to my next question. I haven't been there some time, so I don't know if it's even still there, but did Nairn not have a ballpark as well? Is it still there?
Nairn's ballpark is still there. It hasn't been used in 2 years. And the hope is that the one team that plays there will move to Elsa Craig and we can better utilize that spot.
So if we shut it down, they'd have to move.
Correct.
Okay.
And I think Brandon, they did move last year, did they not?
They did, and they were quite happy to play in the field in Elsa Craig. So
Yeah, because there's so much soccer. I mean, that's utilized for soccer so well. Yeah. Other questions for Brandon? Seeing none, are we good to move on to economic development? Like I said, we can always, when we go final questions, we can always do that. Go ahead to economic development.
Okay, so moving on to economic development and planning, which will be our last for the evening. Again, the floor is open for questions.
Councilor McGlinchey.
Salaries and wages. Last year, 2021 was 20,966 and proposed this year is 15,525. Is that somebody internally or is that, who is that included?
So that's a combination of my reassignment as a would-be over to economic development as a portfolio, inclusive of the the contractor position for bits and pieces as we go through the budget, obviously, for the communications and nope, I'm getting a note. That might be a little low. I should have known that.
That is under, what you're saying is under economic development. We are
This is
looking at
plan.
planning.
Yes.
This is a portion of the salary for the clerk and deputy clerk.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Counselor Nichol?
So I presume that that's why the legal is so high because of development.
Through your worship, that is correct. There are various scales again with any legal matter, but in planning, development pays for development. So once we get to a conclusion or a year end and we need, if a file's been open for too long, we're sending out invoices to the developers to pay for those. It usually is about a year or two delay because where our teeth really come into effect is with the subdivision agreement for all costs incurred. So there are some sunk costs in terms of organizational, just the process, but third party costs go directly back to them. That's the intent.
Counselor Moyer?
So that, just what you're saying, Jonathan, the site plan and subdivision review, that $10,000, that is recoverable from.
It is, we're just anticipating with the emerging market that we have, that files that we're not aware of are gonna come up. And that's why you see in the other allocation of the revenue in and the expenses out, they're specific to certain site plans that we have in the queue, like Gold Leaf and so on and so forth, so.
Looking for other questions?
I have some. I was waiting for everyone else, Mayor Roth, and no one put their hand up.
I'll just go to you if there's no hands up. All right.
On page 3, economic development, salaries and wages, 8201, 1010. We don't have an economic development officer. We went to Adelaide Metcalf. Why are we paying almost $80,000?
That is my reallocation of taking on more of a role in economic development with the proposed contract that we
So
have.
that's your salary.
That's part of it, because I'm sprinkled in min, I'm sprinkled in bits and pieces
Okay.
throughout, but it's more of a line share shifting over to
Okay.
economic development now.
Okay, thank you.
But it,
But that is yours and the
the correct, your
proposed
worship,
position for a one-year
the
contract
contract position for the
for
communications.
the
officer.
communications, which is a portion of what Mike was doing.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm gonna want to talk about the communications guy.
Okay. Other questions? And that one in particular, that is one that we need to talk about, I think. And that is the hiring of a one-year contract for a communications person. We do have a person doing that now, started as a student and then worked for us on a co-op and then worked for us after that as well, right? Part-time.
Part-time,
She was still in school. And so, and it was brought to the committee, right, as a full-time position, but committee at that time, and I don't mean to put words in anybody's mouth, but thought show need with a one-year contract. You know, rather than a full-time position at this time, a one-year contract to show the need. That was we didn't make an official recommendation out of committee, but that is how we talked about that.
If I may, your worship, the total amount budgeted for the communications officer, including benefits and everything, is $44,098. The balance is, as Jonathan was stating, a portion of his salary as well as a portion of the deputy clerk salary.
44,000 seems like a relatively low amount,
Mhm.
you know, given with the pay equity and all that. So how can you justify that amount for a municipal employee?
It was budgeted at the same salary as the part-time position that we had in 2021.
So this person then be part-time?
no, we rolled it up to a
No.
full-time position.
They use that as a base, but
Hourly
added
rate
the
was
hours.
used for a full year.
Well, since we're on the topic, I guess now is as good a time as any. I'm just not sure what this person would be doing. Is now the right time or no?
Well, if we get into the HR portion of it,
Okay,
that's a closed conversation. I mean,
Thank
that's
you
a
then.
different conversation.
Okay.
It's more on not moron. That didn't sound very nice. It's more, no, my apologies. It's more about whether we want to hire that person. And we can ask the role of that person. I think that's very appropriate to ask Jonathan that the role that person is.
So through your worship, again, we have to be sensitive of, who's doing what. We're talking about the program that the municipality wants to roll out. So in an election year, in otherwise COVID, where people, I know we just went back to advertisement, how we're doing advertisement both ways now, but we are taking a primary focus on electronic media outbursts or media postings. Website development is something that we have to keep up as well. I will be the first to admit, I like to think of myself as an old soul. I do not like websites. It's a sliding scale in terms of how many clicks it takes to do something. And the refinement that has come around the corner with the industry is that you need to have somebody staffed if you're going to start taking on some of these on some of these notices. And rather than just being static, we want to keep evolving. And I think that how people are consuming information has becoming more prevalent online. We have we have 2 newsletters going out now electronically, one to people on an email list, another one to staff. We have monthly blasts on local papers. Social media, I can say honestly, has gone up quite a bit in terms of what we're putting out there for people to consume. And we just want to keep moving that along. The contract position was kind of tabled insofar as that because of the election year, we didn't know how people are going to consume it. And that's why we kind of said that the contract would be the best pilot as it would be.
We haven't had a lot of success with hiring people for our website management in the past. Typically, as far as I can recall anyway, which is why we had to kind of rely on the county to help us out. Is that not correct?
So the county's relationship with us, with the websites, and I can't really speak to what was done in the past, is that they'd only prop us up to getting to a vendor who would do it on our behalf. We went through that again with the update to our website. Was it last year or the year before? I can't recall. Last year when it was mobilized 2 years ago, but it was implemented last year. So this individual is taking on the post because the county's relationship that we had with the website was a buying purchase group that everybody would going to the same solution. So we have the solution in place now, and now we have to do the general upkeep moving ahead. So we can't just walk away from our website. It becomes redundant. It'll start failing actually if we walk away from it.
Yeah, thank you.
More important, and some of the other things to that, Jonathan, as well as social media, that person feeding that daily social media, but also things like our project here on Main Street, if that goes to meet with the business owners along Main Street in person and talking with them.
There is an outreach component related to economic development that correlates with communication, that this would be part of the responsibility.
Right. Like it's not just a sit in the office running a website because, as you say, only so many people use it.
And I can confidently say it's one of the only areas besides maybe the clerk's department that touches every aspect of the organization. It goes from facilities to public works and all the way through.
There are questions about, and more specifically on this position of a contract worker. We do want to give direction one way or the other on this. Questions on this?
Can we justify a full-time position? I think is what I'm asking. What you told me here a few moments ago, what I heard was a couple of newsletters that go out periodically, some social media that goes out once in a while when something comes up. I'm struggling with understanding the rationale for a full-time position.
So we have complemented this within economic development as well. And there's tasks associated with specific group outreach that will be assigned to this role that we are currently putting it. So it's not just communications in terms of website and social media. And there is quite a bit of work on the background that even that's involved into that. AODA compliance, having the right message, having the right dialogue with our community partners and stakeholders like the library, those things are going to be part of this role as well. So it's not just a one-to-one relationship with the website. It takes a lot to get to the website or social media communication as a whole. And that's that is being downloaded to this position as well.
It's good to know that because, for me to support it, I would not really want to know or need to know what this person's responsibilities would be.
So it is a little bit of it's outreach as well, in terms of, and I know we're deviating onto capital. My role in economic development for capital is going to make sure that there's coordination with the files that we have for large scale development and with the proposed industrial plan, industrial subdivision that we have going on as well. The other things that need to be, I don't want to discount it, but the things that are lower that can be achieved by just picking up the phone and calling somebody or outreaching and coordinating an effort, that will be put onto this individual as we move ahead.
Estelle.
Just to add, if I may, with the implementation of our new software, there is a module for citizens to log on and view their property tax accounts, their water utility accounts. If we have vendors for accounts payable or receivable, they can log in. And that this position will also be involved in linking the website and the software, working with the company for the new VATM software.
Councillor McClinchy.
So this position, it's with the website, it's interacting with different programs on the website. Are they going to be out, that whoever it may be, out and about North Middlesex, trying to promote communicating with businesses and different things that's going on? Is that part and parcel of the role, or
Yes. Yes.
they're out and about?
There's outreach involved with this role. I can honestly say that communication in the municipal sense, especially at our level, is, I don't want to say being downloaded, or it's becoming industry standard that we do these things. So there's a very interesting dialogue going on in the county about who does what and how responsible is communication. The tricky part is once you start offering these solutions to individuals, you have to keep it up or face the consequences that people are going to be upset that they can't get to their governance anymore. But to answer your question, there is a component related to this job for outreach, going down the business community. A perfect example would be the Park Hill Main Street improvement. They will be going door to door, checking in on these people, seeing where they're at, offering up avenues in terms of our community improvement plan, encouraging people to apply that way. So it's part and parcel with just outreach on it.
Okay, because that's good, because that person has to be out and about as well.
Yes.
Just let people know who they are and how they can help somebody. Thanks.
Other comments? Councillor Moyer and then the deputy mayor.
There's someone on staff that is qualified now to handle this position, and talking about outreach. I mean, obviously, a person that is familiar with the community, familiar with the businesses would be received better than someone coming in from the outside.
So the first thing I would like to make note is that communication similar to HR is it's cross-departmental. Everybody needs to be cognizant of the fact that we communicate and we're scrutinized just by being in governance as it would be. But rather this is a funnel and a focal point for some of the information that needs to come out. To answer your question in terms of, is there somebody competent within the organization to being able to manage, and it might seem frivolous, but Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, our website in the background, and have all those pieces of information talk to each other, that is a stretch. And that goes back to my reference as being an old soul, that is that's beyond myself in terms of what is appropriate for a manager to do that role, and then having someone to complement the organization to do that. But the industry has changed in the last couple of years about how people consume information, and responsibility of government to give that information out in a timely fashion. The work, and we're getting off of topic a little bit here, but the right to disconnect is what's been really swirling with the communications right now, and how single individual being responsible for communication, what does their hours of operation look like when a post can come in the middle of the night and needs a quick response. So a lot of things changing in the industry, but I hope that kind of sheds light into where the organization needs to head towards.
So, I mean, the other component of that is with the salary that we're offering. I know HR and IT, that's you'll have to find someone for that range.
Certainly, but we need to start somewhere, right? So we need to be able to be nimble enough to change in terms of our communication portfolio to match what the residents expect from us. So again, I hope that sheds light into the rationale.
Other questions, comments?
I had one.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I just want to echo what Councilor Moyer said, and that I feel that it's critical that the person who fills this role is very familiar with our community and ideally would reside within the boundaries of North Middlesex, because I think that's important for them to be able to communicate effectively.
I would suggest that although, and you know my answer, that we can't hire someone on that preference,
I
but that
understand
being involved in the community is an expectation of this role. It does take a leaping off point to have that relationship, but it would be, again, that's part of the point of getting out there and being seen. I think that's very important in this aspect. And it's battles are won by inches in this instance, not by leaps and bounds.
But it would complement our procurement policy to utilize local talent.
I don't really know what to say.
You're giving, no, that's right. You're not really looking for an answer. That's your opinion on that position. I don't think it has to be justified. Just that's your opinion on it. And as we said at the budget committee, when it was proposed as a full-time position, it was thought of at that time, a one-year contract, and see how that goes about. I think, John, yeah, okay. I just wanted to. So is there any more questions or comments on that? Because at this time, I think, again, we're looking for direction from council on this position. And so I would ask who's in favor of a one-year contract for communications person? Oh, well, that was better than what I expected. I didn't know what to think. All right, so that is carried. So it's good business. So is there more questions on economic development? Deputy Mayor Ellison.
Not economic development, but under this area, there is. I have. a question.
Yes, yeah, on economic development.
Well, it's.
There's,
Oh, I'm sorry, on this, yeah, go ahead.
My
on the
question is, it's more an expression of frustration directed towards Brandon, I suppose, because I'm looking at the fitness facility and the YMCA revenue is zero. And we're still paying them almost $53,000 a year. And I've mentioned several times in the past, I really struggle with that. And I know if it's closed, we're still paying them. And I don't understand the rationale for that.
I've got it here.
Oh, yeah, sure. Page 19, fitness facility, 3501, 4107.
So we haven't received the YMCA's budget number yet, their projected revenue for 2022. But what I can say is that I think Q4, which wasn't included in the 2021 actuals, was, because that's just to November, I believe we received a check for around $23,000. So our net cost of last year would have basically been around $18,000 to $20,000.
Okay, well, that's better.
And then we're waiting on this year's. I think they're struggling with projecting with COVID. Again.
Okay, so that does improve it.
Yeah, that's not reflected in here though, at this time.
Not currently.
Okay.
I'm
Oh,
sorry,
go ahead.
what is not reflected in?
Well, what I had seen, I was like, Deputy Mayor I saw that 53,000 or whatever it was that they charge us.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the revenue is not reflected in the budget.
Right. Other comments, questions? No? So seeing no more comments I think that will do it for tonight. I think everybody's at, that's about a little over 2.5 hours. I think that's enough. We want to make sure we make good decisions. So, yeah, so we want to make sure we make good decisions. So I am looking for a motion to adjourn. Councilor McClinchy and Councilor Keough, all in favor. Carried. Thank you, everyone.